Hi, hello, this is Amanda Around the Globe. Today I'm in Melbourne, Australia because this is where I live now, just chilling. So today I wanted to talk about how to find accommodation. This is my most asked question, which is very surprising to me. I'm going to tell you guys how I find all my accommodation. I sometimes will stay places for 2 or 3 days, so sometimes stay there for 2 or 3 months. So yeah, I know all about accommodation, short-term, mid-term, long-term, we got it covered. So I'm gonna split this video up into 3 sections, short-term, mid-length, and long-term. I'll start with short-term, and this is finding accommodation 1 week or less. I always use one of 3 different options. Depending on what country I am in, you can actually use any of these in any country, but I kind of vary it depending on if I'm traveling with someone else or if I'm traveling alone, if I want to be social, if I don't want to be social. There's kind of options for everyone. What I use for short-term accommodation are number 1, hostels. This is a great way to make friends, and it's also a great situation to stay in if you are traveling with someone but still open to being social, kind of doing whatever you want. You know, like hostels give you a lot of freedom. They also give you a lot of benefits. Sometimes they'll include breakfast, sometimes they'll include crazy things. Like one time I stayed at a hostel that offered yoga classes and salsa dancing lessons. There's so many things that hostels can offer. They're also relatively cheap depending on where you're staying. Like for example, in South America and Central America, I paid about $10 a night for a hostel. In other countries, they can be much more expensive. I think in Australia, they run like $30 to $50 a night for a dorm room. It really depends what kind of budget you have and what you're looking for. So the second thing I recommend is couch surfing. I am a very large advocate for couch surfing. I've talked about this a few times. Couch surfing is great because you are staying in someone's house, you're really experiencing the local culture, you kind of have a built-in friend in your host, and you also have kind of a local tour guide. Every time I've done couch surfing, I have gotten tips from the person that I'm staying with to see places that I would have never been able to find online. Really local, cool places. I really love couch surfing, and that is totally free and can really help with the budget if you're staying in a more expensive country. For example, in Australia and in Europe, I've stayed with people in their houses doing couch surfing, and it was so great. It was so great. I can't recommend it enough. Number 3 is Airbnb. I love Airbnb. I stay in Airbnbs all the time. I really love it. I have a link in the description box down below for you guys if you want to get, I think it's $25 or $30 on your first stay through Airbnb. Sign up through that link if you want to get some credit. And Airbnb is great because you can stay in places for 1 day, you can stay there for a week, you can stay there for however long you want. You get weekly discounts, monthly discounts. There's a massive variety of budget options. You can rent a private room, you can rent a shared room, you can rent an entire home. I've rented anywhere from a private room in a house to an entire villa in Costa Rica. Like, it is insane the variety of accommodation that you can find on Airbnb. I highly recommend it. It's very safe. I've never had any problems with Airbnb. A lot of people ask me if Airbnb is safe, and it is totally safe and totally legit. So that's all of my short-term accommodation. You can also always go for, depending on the country that you're in, like in Thailand, I like staying at local guest houses. They're a little bit higher end than hostels, but still relatively cheap. My favorite guest house ever is Sleep Guest House in Chiang Mai, Thailand. It is so cute, it's so great. It's a little couple that runs it, and they're so sweet. I will link them down below too. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, I just really love them. Okay, let's move on to mid-length stay. So if you're staying somewhere anywhere between 1 week to 1 month, I would consider this a mid-length stay. So for mid-length stays, I also use any of the previous accommodations that I just mentioned. So hostels, Airbnb, guest houses. I don't really use couch surfing for mid-length stay because couch surfing is roughly, you can stay with someone, usually the polite stay is like 3 to 4 or 5 days. 5 days is kind of stretching it. I have stayed with people like up to a week before, but usually that's because we're getting along really well and everything's going really cool. But in general, you usually stay with people on couch surfing about 3 to 4 days max. that's that. So if you are staying in a city for a week or more, you can do couch surfing with multiple hosts if you really want to try couch surfing. But if you want to stay in one accommodation the entire time, I would really recommend any of the 3 options that I just gave you. So hostels, guest houses, or Airbnb. Airbnb does a weekly discount, like I said. Not all rooms or places on Airbnb do that. It's really up to the person who owns the Airbnb, but it is really helpful if you can find a place with a weekly discount. You usually save like 5 or 10%, which is awesome. Another option for mid-length stay is doing a quick Google search and seeing what you can find. So this will usually bring up a lot of like hotels, guest houses. I like to try budget hotels or guest houses. I don't really stay in hotels very often. Like, it's pretty rare that I'll stay in a hotel, but sometimes it's really fun if you want to treat yourself. My default accommodation is usually Airbnb lately. I really have been loving Airbnb. It can be very expensive in some countries, but I just really like it. I like to have my own space. I've been traveling for a year and a half. Like, you can only handle hostels for so long. Alright, another option that's really, really good if you want to stay in a hostel but you don't want to stay in a dorm room with other people, I would really recommend checking out a private room. You can usually get them for the same price as a budget hotel, or maybe even a little bit less. They usually run about $25 up a night depending on what country you're in. So South America, I stayed in some private rooms and hostels for about $25 to $30 a night, which was great because that way I could be social, I could make friends, but I still had my own space to do my work and chill out and relax. Long-term accommodations. Airbnb, obviously I've said this in every other section, but Airbnb offers monthly discounts as well, which is great. If you're staying somewhere for a month, Airbnb can be very useful because you can rent it out pretty far in advance. Just rent it out for the month, you get the monthly discount. Most places offer a monthly discount. And yeah, it's just really easy. If you're staying somewhere for more than a month, I would recommend, I think Airbnb is good for up to 1 month. 1 month is a really good amount of time to stay in an Airbnb, or a week, or even a few days. But if you're staying for longer than a month, then I really recommend looking into a short-term lease. For example, in places where a lot of travelers come and go, like Thailand, you can get a short-term lease for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, however long you want, basically. I remember when I was living in Thailand, I got a 3-month lease, and my lease was $280 a month for a luxury studio apartment that included cleaning service once a week, which was awesome. Oh my god, that was so cool. But you can also get like a 1-month lease in Thailand, and you'd pay a little bit more if it's a shorter lease. But yeah, like in Thailand, a 3-month lease was long term, which was really funny to me. It really depends on the country, like how you can find these places. I really recommend using Facebook groups to figure out the best way to find a place. Like, usually locals will know everything that you need to know. So I'm in a few housing groups on Facebook for Melbourne, Australia, for Perth, and I found all of my housing in Australia through Facebook groups. And if you just search like rent Australia, or like the city that you're in, usually that will bring up some good stuff. For Melbourne, I highly recommend Fairy Floss and the Rent Network. Melbourne, I've found my apartments through them. Perth has like Perth housing rentals or something like that. Just do a Facebook search and you'll be able to find something. And if you can't find a housing network group, then you can always just find a group of people in the area and make a post about it there, and people will tell you. Facebook groups are super helpful. Also in Australia, they have gumtree.com.au. You can get anything on Gumtree. It's like Craigslist in America, but it's for Australia. So you can get a job on there, you can get a house on there, you can get anything you need, you can get a car, you can buy clothes, you can seriously get anything on Gumtree. So I'd highly recommend looking into that. I'll leave all the links for this stuff in the description down below. By the way, this is not a sponsored video. These are all my own opinions. I'm not getting paid to say any of this. This is just, yeah. I wanted to make this video for you guys because you guys ask me this all the time. So here's your answers. All of my tips and tricks for finding accommodation. I hope this video helped you guys a lot. And if it did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more videos on minimalism, travel, saving money, following your dreams, everything you could ever want in your life. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye! Peace. P.S. If you have video suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Bye!